I actually didn't time that music out. That was kind of thrown together a little bit too fast. But hi, everybody. Welcome back to a special episode of Big Apple Hockey and Ranger Central because we've got a lot of talking points that we want to hit today as we're going to be doing our New York Rangers season preview and more. I, of course, am your, there it is, am your host, Mark Williams. Happy to be back once again with the host of the final buzzer, Mr. John Filkowski.
Less than a month away. Coming soon.
And of course, one half of our Ranger Central men, Matt, welcome back once again.
Yeah, happy to be back on. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys to discuss hockey. I know that maybe the Rangers aren't the most exciting topic right now, especially coming off the disaster season that was last year. But yeah, like I said, it's always great to be back with you guys talking hockey. You know, the best sport in the world, in my opinion. And yeah, preseason starts on Sunday. First game in Newark against the Devils, 1:00 at the Prudential Center. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be a great episode. Great season preview. A lot of talking points today, especially with some big news that dropped this morning. We'll obviously discuss about that because a lot of people have different opinions on that. But yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into that. We're going to have the other half of Ranger Central, Evan, coming on momentarily, everybody. And yeah, there is a lot that needs to be discussed. Of course, one thing that needs to be discussed is use the promo code Big Apple Hockey for $20 off your first order with SeatGeek. And look for this week coming. That man did a list of the top 10 New York Rangers what ifs. There will also be shorter versions on that. And if you like this show, Islander fans, there's going to be a version of this coming for you very, very soon. But all right, we'll skip to the headline of today. We had another headline to talk about. We're going to be talking about that in a second. But news today, JT Miller named the 29th captain in franchise history. Matt, you're our guest. Tell me why this makes sense.
I can't because I don't agree with it. to be honest with you, listen. We were obviously discussing it today. You know, within our own group chats that me and Evan were in. Listen, the only reason why I'm not a bit more upset by this is because I was fully expecting this to happen. To me, it was either going to be JT Miller or Vincent Trocheck that was going to be named captain because that was, the whole rumors that was circling around ever since the season ended. And listen, it makes sense that Miller was the captain just based off, we heard all, the rumors and all the talks, that Miller was brought in here to change the culture per se. And, the Rangers gave up a lot of assets to get him, including, Filipino, Victor Mancini, a first round pick to Vancouver that eventually got flipped to Pittsburgh in the in a separate trade for Marcus Pettersson. Listen, my problem with this naming Miller captain per se is you're coming off a season where pretty much every single thing that could have went wrong did go wrong. And, just from the start, I get that they started well. I get that the record was fine, but you could just tell, and even it came out later, that even the vibes throughout training camp from last year, they weren't great. There were signs that there were already cracks in the foundation of this roster. And once that season started, it boiled in and it boiled over. Look, I get it. Miller was brought halfway through. For me personally, I always viewed that there was no captain on this team. And I thought if they were going to name a captain per se, I would have at least waited to see how this quote unquote new roster per se with some of the new guys coming in like Vladislav Gavrikov per se. I would have waited per se to see, maybe give it a year or 2 years to see how this new group sort of molds and functions. But apparently that's not what they decided to do. They saw Miller as, he came in, he made changes. He's going to hold guys accountable. Obviously, with the new coach, Mike Sullivan, coming in, we'll see how that, ties in with the rest of the roster. To me also, though, I do not like the fact that there is also 4 alternates on this team. I don't think you need 4 alternates per se. I'm fine with Vincent Trocheck being named an alternate. I'm fine with Adam Fox being named an alternate. And, we'll get into that with those 2 guys specifically, especially with the news and the rumors how Mike Sullivan was going about Adam Fox this offseason, telling him that he needs to improve his skating in his offseason regimen. So with those two guys, I'm totally fine with them being named assistant captains. It's the other two I don't agree with. So you kept Mika Zibanejad as an alternate captain who spent most of last year crying and bitching about the fact that he wasn't getting enough ice time, when in reality he didn't deserve that ice time at all, because he had a terrible season last year. And not only last year, but really since, because I thought 22-23 he had a decent year, but 23-24 I thought he had a terrible year. He was one of the lowest, I believe, on the roster in terms of 5v5 points. And then last year again, complaining about ice time, complaining that Jacob Trouba and guys like Barkley Goodrow got either put on waivers or traded away, which didn't make any sense because the previous year they failed, they came up short. And I'm sorry, if you can't handle accountability, then for me you don't deserve a letter. And then Artemi Panarin, I'm sorry, listen, I get it that Artemi Panarin has been here for 6 years. He's had multiple seasons where he's put up 90 plus points. But to me, when I look at an assistant captain, I don't view Artemi Panarin as that, because one, he doesn't play the right type of brand of hockey for me. If I'm going to name someone a captain, to me, you have to have some aspect of defensive qualities in your game. Artemi Panarin has none of that. He is a ghost whenever he is in either the neutral zone or the defensive zone. And two, this is a guy that has also not shown up in the crunch time and has not shown up when it comes time to playoff hockey. To me, if you're going to come up short in those times, I'm sorry. To me, you are not deserving of an A on your jersey. So for me, like I said, just to sum it up quickly, Miller, I don't like him being named captain. I thought they should have waited. If they wanted to do it later, fine, but I don't agree with it being right away. And then second of all, I'm fine with Trocheck and Fox being named assistants. Not happy, though, with Meek and Panarin having the A's on their jersey, though.
Phil, extend your thoughts from there, because I think we're all on the same lines.
Is it bad that I'm apathetic? Like, I've gotten to the point of complete apathy. Is this a bad thing, or I don't even know anymore? I just see some of the comments in the chat, and I'm kind of like, well, thinking along the same lines as some of these. Like, I think Josh might be right here. Like, 100th year window dressing. I mean, but at the same time, I also, Mika having an A is still a joke. Panarin, Nicole here, Panarin should not have a letter. It's kind of echoing what Matt was just saying, and I'm on board with all of that. I just think that I saw this whole
I can make a
JT
comment, but I'm going to restrain myself too right now on that Panarin one. Anyway, keep going.
Well, I just think that I saw the JT Miller coming a mile away, even though I'm kind of like about it. Like, he's the one guy that they have that's a real alpha male that's willing to drag the team into the trenches, into the war. I understand why people think that he's the locker room cancer, because he got into that spat with Pettersson in Vancouver, but some of the people that are saying this are also some of the same people who have been bashing Pettersson for his lack of showing up ever since he signed that deal, because the moment he signed that contract that he's on right now, his play just went like that, and it went like that quick. So you can't have it both ways. You're either going to sit there and say that Pettersson was wrong for being the way that he was and not showing up and not being the guy, because he hasn't been that same player since he signed that contract, or you're going to sit there and say it's all on JT Miller. So, I mean, you can't really ride the fence here, guys and girls. So, I agree with this. I think Pettersson is 10-ply. If this is Shorzy, I am so going full Shorzy and full chirping Pettersson, because I think Pettersson, Vancouver's going to regret that contract. They're absolutely going to regret that contract. Was JT Miller right for going about it the way that he did? Maybe not. But when you're busting your ass every night on the ice, and you see guys like a Pettersson or a Panarin who are taking shifts off in their own zone and avoiding hits, and causing turnovers because they don't want to take a hit to make a play, or they don't want to play the right way, well, then you get pissed off, and rightfully so. And listen, I'm not saying JT Miller is a saint, nor he's perfect by any means. But what was the one thing I said? The first thing I said when they traded for JT Miller. Do you guys remember?
I'm blanking on it at the moment.
I said that this was the first in a line of what would be culture changing.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's still happening. They're not done. They're not. Trust me, they're not. So this is definitely, it falls right in line with everything that I thought they were going to do. Drury, the message that Dolan sent by extending Drury was that your shit, we're not going to tolerate it anymore. Like your uprisings and your mutiny and everything like that. They're not tolerating that anymore. They're done with it. And if they don't want to, if you don't like it, there's the door. That's essentially what Dolan said, and this is just reinforcing it. And if you don't believe that, I don't know what to tell you. But they want that attitude out. They want that soft nonsense out. And Dolan's not standing for it. Now that Dolan's gotten more involved and they're going and they're naming Miller captain and they're giving Drury the extension, they've given everybody the riot act. And it's either you're in or you're out. You're with us or you're against us. So I think this falls right in line with what I thought that they were going to do. So I'm not surprised by it, and that's why I am kind of apathetic about it. It's like, like I like Miller's fiery personality to a point, but I don't think that it's necessarily bad, but I also don't think it's necessarily great, and I really don't think there's a true captain figure on this roster. It's just JT Miller is the closest thing to one, and listen, I get people are not going to like it, and you're fine for that. But I just don't think that we're anywhere close to a real captain here. I thought Alexis Lafreniere would be that guy one day because that guy's been a leader every level that he's at. We're going to talk more about him later, but that's a guy that I thought maybe. Adam Fox was a guy that I thought would take over a leadership position. He's someone I would watch out for this year. More about him later on as well. But I just think that it's kind of like a Band-Aid. It's a Band-Aid or maybe even a transitional option, you know? But we're actually just going to stop real quick because the second half of Ranger Central is now here. Evan, welcome to the show. We were talking about JT Miller being named the 29th captain in franchise history. Floor is yours, buddy.
Where do I begin? I'm trying to think. Because I was taught at a young age, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say it at all. So I'm trying to figure out what I want to say here. At the end of the day, I expected it. I expected him or Trocheck, because I was listening to you guys and I heard Matt say it. I felt the same way. I expected him or Trocheck to be named the captain of the team at some point. I don't agree with the timing of the decision, similar to Matt, because I felt after the way last year went, I don't see the reason to rush naming a captain other than it being the 100th season right now and kind of naming it just to name it. That's kind of my view on it. I think that it's a rush decision when you could go this year, see how things go under the new coaching staff. And my thought also was that I want to make it clear, it's not a guarantee they're going to get one of these guys. But in the event you land an Eichel or McDavid next offseason, to me, I'm slapping the C on one of those two's jerseys when they walk through the door. And if you don't land one of them, then you can name JT Miller captain or Vinny Trocheck or whoever. That was kind of my thought process on that one. Or maybe you even wait a little bit longer if you want to, and maybe see if Will Cooley takes the step to be a captain at some point. But if you want good news, the good news is if you're against this, the Rangers do tend to trade their captains after 2 to 3 years. So if all goes accordingly, JT Miller will be gone in 2 or 3 years anyway, and then they'll name a new captain in a few years. Maybe it's one of the Hughes brothers, since Spit and Chicklets is talking about that, so who knows?
I mean, there's a lot to think about with this, and I think B-Roy said it best. He was the first comment on the stream. He went from cancer to captain, so how about that?
That's him.
Part of this, I do have to say, guys, I have the image and the thoughts of JT Miller from his first stint. That's burned into my mind. I'm going to give JT Miller some latitude on this one, and maybe he can prove me wrong. But it seems like there's a different guy that showed up in the NHL with his name on the back and his face ever since he got traded to Vancouver. And it seems like he's a different person and a different player. And we've gone over this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys have said it too, that sometimes it takes like that second trade to kind of kick your ass into gear and let you know, hey, buddy, where Herman Edwards would say for what NFL means, not for long if you don't get your ass in gear. I mean, tell that to guys like Josh Hosang, who you're great, you have all this talent in the world, but if you don't take it seriously, you're going to be gone. And I'm just throwing out an example of guys like him. As far as him being a captain goes, good, JT. Now you got it. Now back it up. We know he's got a mouth on him. We know he's got an attitude. And whether it's good or bad, depending on how you say that, his numbers seem to be leaning towards he can back it up now. But let's see that fiery JT Miller that was playing for Team USA last February that was ready to go mix it up and start stuff just to get everybody fired up. Let's see some passion on this team because it's been sorely lacking. We talk about the Jacob Trouba helmet throw versus the Chicago Blackhawks, forgetting that they were down, 5-1 in that game. And it's like, oh, they got to wake up. Look, they started playing better after that. And then what? Then they went back to nah. So it's a matter of also changing up the culture in the locker room too. Phil said this just now, and he's right about that, because there's lots of things that have to change up on this culture. And I do have to say, Alexei Lafreniere could have been a good captain. Maybe if we ever saw him on the ice, that would be one of those things. We're going into what, year 5 or year 6 with Alexei? I don't even know anymore.
Year
because
5.
we don't even know what Alexei
Year 5.
Lafreniere is. We'll talk about that more in a little bit.
21, 22, 23.
I think it's year.
Well,
It's year 5.
Year
Yeah.
6 if you want to count the 20 or the 2021 season.
Yeah,
You mean where Colin
year
Blackwell
6.
got more playing time?
Oh, it
Yeah.
is year 6. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You draft the guy number 1 overall. Let's play Colin Blackwell more. What a great philosophy. This is look, there's a lot of things that have to change around the Rangers culture. We've been talking about this for a while, guys. This is one of them. And if Miller wants to take the bull by the horns and wants to be the captain, we all kind of want in New York. We want a guy that's going to hold people accountable, Mika. And we want a guy that's going to get passion out of people, Panarin. Oh, no, I can't say that. He has 89 points. Yeah, and it's like the Calgary game. He scored, and then he took the rest of the game off. And then they had, another single-digit shots on net in a period? So I'm saying I'm uninspired by this, but I'm willing to give him a chance. That's the only way.
I mean, yeah, we kind of just have no choice at the end of the day but to give it a chance. I mean, that's kind of how I'm going about things at this point. Like, I'm not even mad anymore with certain things that happen. It's just kind of like I'm just watching the show unfold. To me, it just also is bizarre to name a guy that had his first stint here end as ugly as it did. He leaves Tampa Bay, and that team wins 2 Stanley Cups after he's traded from the team, and then it ended as poorly as it did with him in Vancouver. He's here for 30 games, and all of a sudden you're slapping the C on him. I mean, that's just like the bizarre part to me about all of this.
Matt, last word on this?
My other problem with this, and it ultimately goes down to the fact when they first traded JT Miller. And look, I'll always say this about the JT Miller trade. I think the Rangers got the better end of the deal, right? Because they traded away basically just an injury-prone Philip Hedl and an unproven prospect in Victor Mancini and a first-round pick, which we don't know what's going to turn into with that first-round pick, right? My problem was always that it was the wrong trade to bring into this roster, and the roster was already going in the wrong direction. Because you're looking at JT Miller, right? The guy's 32 years old, and he's only getting older, and we all know the old saying, Father Time catches up with everyone. eventually, it doesn't matter how old you get. Eventually, you're going to start to slow down. You're going to break down. And look, I'm not saying that JT Miller this year is going to take all these steps back and he's going to be a 50-point player. I'm not saying that. But I think we can all agree because all of us here, we're all realistic. I don't think none of us are deluded. We don't try to sell ourselves on all these crazy takes. The Rangers are just somehow going to be back this year. It's going to take them a little bit to get back to where they want to be, which is quote unquote cup contender. And my fear is that you name JT Miller, the guy's 32 years old. He's going to turn 33, I believe, in March. So if you're waiting a couple of years for this team to get back to contention, and let's just say it takes 3 years to get there, by the time you get there, JT Miller could already be 35 years old, be on the decline, and then you're stuck with him for 2 more years at like an $8 million cap hit. That's my only problem. I would have went in a total different direction with this roster per se after they offloaded Jacob Trouba back in December, but they didn't. Chris Drury decided not to do that, and he decided to, because we all love the Igor Shesterkin contract and lock themselves in to 8 more years at $11.5 million. So
greatest contract ever.
Yeah, greatest contract ever. But this is where we are now, and it's like what Evan's saying. We have to deal with it. And listen, we'll see what happens. Obviously, there are rumors that a certain other Russian superstar might be available via the trade market or potentially through free agency next year if he hits the open market. And listen, I've been saying this whenever me and Evan are talking in our group chats. If that certain guy becomes available, where this roster is right now and the age of the roster, you got to go all in to get that certain player. But I mean, we are going to talk about that more as we dive deeper.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. I also think the Igor contract prevents them from going the other way.
Yeah.
So like you can't do that. So now you really have to go all in. Whether it's McDavid, whether it's Eichel, whether it's Kaprizov, you have to go get one of those guys now because you not only did you start that process by giving Igor that contract, now you're doubling down by naming JT Miller a captain. Like this tells me you're going forward and you don't have any designs on going backwards. Like if it came to that, like they're not going to tank if they're bad enough to be in the McKenna lottery. They're not tanking. They're going to try to win every game. And then they're going to screw themselves out of a chance for a guy like McKenna when that's really what they need. So, but Carson's right here. Like, those guys needed to not have letters after all this.
Yeah.
They needed to be stripped of their letters. I know you don't really see that often. Maybe in certain cases, like, Kenny Janssen stepped down from captaincy.
Joe Thornton was stripped and given to
Blake Wheeler.
Yeah, Joe Thornton was stripped. Blake Wheeler, yeah, that's another one. But it's very rare that you've seen that. So
I mean that's different though because it's a captaincy. Like this is alternate captains, and with the new coach coming in, it's like you could cover that up and be like, they wanted to trim down the leadership and kind of cover it up that way.
Yeah, I also agree with that because it's a new regime. But after everything that happened last year, I think you're right. I think there needs to be a trim down of like what happened with everything here. Matt, you've got something you want to say?
Yeah,
I thought that Matt had something to say right there.
Yeah, this was one of the things that I wanted to discuss about when we were doing the season preview, and I brought it up a couple days ago when we were talking in our group chat, and I'm like, I wanted to touch upon the point how, for me, since Mike Sullivan's coming in, it's his first year, I really wanted him to come in and select his own leadership group per se and his own on ice generals, and I wanted to talk about how he had to be very very, very patient and choose the right type of guys to implement into his leadership group. But with the news coming out today and seeing guys like Panarin and Mika still choosing or still retaining their A's on their jerseys, that pretty much just throws that whole point out the window for me.
Just to point out one thing, John Radigan just pointed out that Dustin Brown got stripped, but that was more of like a passing of the torch captaincy, which will happen every now and again. Look, you guys, you're right about this, and I can't help but say there's 20 players on the roster. We got 5 captains. You got to be kidding me. Like, why not just make everybody a captain for another game? Like, it's just you have
Sean just giving us an update that the Rangers put out their leadership group in a photo on Instagram about a minute ago.
Is it an aerial photograph because they have to capture everybody on there?
I don't know.
Do you remember the 1990s? Remember who the captains were on those teams? It was Messier, Leach, Graves, and I think Kevin Lowe was in there for a little bit. They didn't have 9,000 captains. Everybody get a grip.
No, it's just it's basic. Captain JT Miller, alternates Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad. I mean, honestly, it should just be Miller, Fox, and Trocheck. The other two should not be in there.
Again, going back to Zibanejad, if you're going to cry about the departure of a player in your exit interview from June 30th, I mean, get over yourself. Be a professional. And you know what, guys? Let's talk about somebody that exemplified the New York Rangers and really was a class act all the way through, and he was repaid by the New York fans. More about that in a minute. But let's remember Eddie Giacomin for a second, which all of us are too young. We never got to watch him play, even the old man that's talking right now. But Evan, I'll start with you. I mentioned Eddie Giacomin. How is it you remember him?
Just as, one of the franchise icons. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Not that I, got to, of course, witness how he played or anything, but, he's one of the franchise icons. That's really all I could say, honestly. I don't have many opinions, but, rest easy, Eddie.
Yeah. Matt, your thoughts on Eddie Giacomin?
Yeah, I mean, kind of same with Evan. I didn't watch him play because I was born in 2003. And he retired long before I was even born. So, but yeah, I mean, listen, I'll always remember him as a franchise icon and a franchise legend. I mean, I believe he was the second Ranger in history to get his number retired behind Roger Gilbert. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, franchise icon, first Ranger goaltender to win the Vezina in 1971. I mean, and he was the original, obviously, I'm not sure like the goaltenders before the Eddie Giacomin era, because I don't recall like the early Ranger history apart from them winning the cups in 28, 33, and 40. But I mean, yeah, he pretty much started the long line of legendary New York goaltenders, jumping from Eddie Giacomin, John Van Beesbrook to Mike Richter to Henrik Lundqvist.
You're forgetting somebody in the middle of that, by the way. Eddie Giacomin literally passed the torch to John Davidson.
Yeah, John Davidson as well. And I mean, also Igor, if people want to count him. But I don't want to touch on that subject too much. No, yeah, listen, and a couple weeks ago we already lost a Hall of Fame worthy goaltender and Ken Dryden. So seeing those two guys pass away at such young ages that they were, I mean, yeah, listen, rest in peace, Eddie Giacomin, franchise legend and franchise icon, like what Evan was saying.
Philk, how are you going to remember Eddie Giacomin?
I mean, I never got the.
Well, obviously I didn't either.
But, I mean, it's just. Matt literally said what I said on Twitter yesterday. I posted that he was Mr. Ranger before Rod Gilbert. If you think about it, I mean, he was the first in a line of great New York Ranger goalies. He should have won multiple cups. And his return with Detroit was probably the greatest outpouring of emotion and fan appreciation you'll probably ever see in the history of professional sports. When a guy like that comes back and they're cheering him over their own team, I mean, that just tells you what he meant to this organization and the fan base. So the hockey world just lost a giant, and the Rangers community lost an even bigger giant. So, rest in peace, Eddie. You could see the old heads in the chat that are talking about being able to watch him play and what he meant to them, and that says enough for me. I mean, I don't think I need to see anything more from than fans of yesteryear that are still with us today, gushing at how good he was and how much he meant to this team. So, rest in peace, Eddie. You're going to be missed. Have a drink with Rod up there, man.
I mean, for starters, there's a lot of stories you could tell about Eddie Giacomin. I messaged a friend of mine, Natalie Villamure, who's Jill's daughter, and just expressed my condolences because obviously she knew Eddie and said how great he was. Gilles actually shared the Vezina Trophy with Eddie when they won in, I think it was 71, when they won it together, and he was like the mirror opposite. Eddie was a fifth defenseman. He was a rover. He would go all over the ice. He was doing a lot of stuff like that well before Dominik Hasek was doing it. He was class personified, and as a reason why he was liked as much as he was, and why that game happened. I remember the story of Emile Francis saying how he really didn't want to waive him because he liked that Giacomin so much. Yeah, and again, there's the comment right there, 9 being in the stands. It was a shock. And then the first game he got to play with Detroit, even Ed didn't know he was going to play. Alex Del Vecchio wanted him to play, and he even said to one of the reporters who knew Ed Giacomin, do you think he'd be too emotional to play against the Rangers? And Giacomin still tells the story that there were tears in his eyes through the first period because of the outpouring of love from the fans, and he couldn't even see the puck. And Detroit did win that game. And I think it was Steve Vickers or one of the guys that scored and just looked up, went, I'm getting booed because I just scored on Ed Giacomin. He owned all the Rangers goaltending records. And then, of course, Mike Richter broke some of them. And then Henrik Lundqvist just said, I'll take all those records. Hope you guys don't mind. But he's just another guy. When you think about it this way, the Rangers are a goaltending franchise. I mean, you can go all the way back to Gump Worsley, Charlie Rayner, Davey Kerr. Lawrence Bow was a good goaltender in the 20s. But Giacomin is on that pyramid of Ranger great goaltenders. And sorry, Igor Shesterkin's got a long way to go before he catches up to those three. And this is the reason why these guys, they're legends, and that's why they're timeless. And I know a friend of mine, actually, I got a text her later, my friend Rose, who is Eddie Giacomin was her favorite player. And it's just this guy is somebody who left a long legacy. And again, just to put this in perspective, guys, he was waived, and the first game was against the Rangers. The fans didn't even know whether or not he was going to be there. And they came out, no social media, no nothing, and they cheered on their Eddie, and they had signs all over MSG that night. You'll never see anything like that ever again. And I think it's the greatest show of respect for any New York athletes. But guys, we got a New York Rangers season preview. Let's do that. We have a massive preview. We are happy to do it with our boys from Ranger Central. And let's look at some of the stats that happened last year. The Rangers 39, 36, and 7. They were 5th in the Metro. Goals for 3.11. Hey, that's good. They're 12th. At least they're in the top half of the league. Goals against 3.11. It's not so good. And that's per game, obviously. Power play dropped all the way to 28th. Remember when that was good. And the penalty kill, which was good most of the season, dropped all the way down to 11th. And we'll throw some of the other stats. Phil, I'll start with you. What is your 2025-26 New York Rangers season overview?
Oh, I mean, overview in what sense?
Like, what are you looking at it as? I mean,
like, how about we give our predictions of where we think they finish?
There we go. We could do that.
Yeah. Honestly, I would wait for the end to that then, right?
Well, yeah, we'll predict where we're going to be. It's just, what are your thoughts about this team going into this season?
I don't know. I'm kind of apathetic about this team. I mean, I don't know really what to think of it. I think there's questions that need to be answered. I mean, I guess I get. Can
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Can it get worse?
It could.
Really, it possibly. I mean, I have no expectations this season. Missing the playoffs. Some of these are all, these are their leaders from last year, points wise, and then, but I mean, a lot of it depends on the success of certain individuals. it's a lot of bounce backs, a lot of questions to be answered with this team, and I'm not sure of where they finish. Honestly, are the Islanders a competitive team? Is Carolina going to be that much better for adding Keandre Miller and Nikolai Ehlers? And does their goaltending, is their goaltending good enough? I don't know. I'm just, the East is a mess, really, and it's